an interest group. One of the CCIG's goals is to encourage sharing of our current technology so that we can help you improve your business. We thought expanding our annual webinar series to include some technical webinars would be a great way to do this. This webinar today is the second, or actually the fourth in a series of several others that we've been putting on to educate the contractors on potential technology that you may not be aware of, or some programming that's out there that's new to us all. We have a couple of webinars coming up I'd also like to touch on, so you can put these on your calendar. All of them are offered at from 2 to 3 p.m. and that's Eastern time. So mark your calendars for May the 22nd. Rainbird will have their technical webinar just as this one. And then in September on the 12th, Hunter will have a webinar as well. CCIG is also working on the presentations for the irrigation show, which will be held in Phoenix, beautiful Phoenix, in November from 17 November to the 21st. So make plans to attend and look for more details as the date gets closer. Now let me take the opportunity to introduce the IA State Affairs Director, Chad Forsey, to introduce the presenters for today's webinar. Chad?
Thanks, Mel, and again I want to welcome everyone who has joined us today to hear from Toro about their Evolution product. And today, representing Toro will be B.J. Jones and Mike Barron. Burnett B.J. Jones is a Senior Marketing Manager for the Toro Company. He has 12 years of experience in the irrigation industry. The majority of this time was in engineering and product management positions focused on residential and commercial product development for both domestic and international markets. Last year, BJ transitioned to a new role as the Senior Marketing Manager for the Toro residential and commercial irrigation products. BJ is also an adjunct professor at the University of California, Riverside, teaching product management. Mike Barron has 34 years of experience in the irrigation industry. His areas of responsibility have included product development, marketing, and sales in both the turf and landscaped drip markets. As Toro's National Specifications Manager for water management products, Mike champions precision irrigation technologies within Toro and to distributors, contractors, specifiers, and municipalities via educational seminars and on-site field evaluations of existing systems. He also stays connected with landscape and irrigation ordinances while disseminating information about water agency rebates to customers. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Barron and B.J. Jones.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here and appreciate everyone's participation.
We do appreciate the opportunity to spend some time today talking about the evolution of irrigation controllers and the types of technology that are now available and at your fingertips when it comes to irrigation controllers. There we go. As we all know, technology is advancing around us in products every day, and it really kind of seems like the rate of advancement is even increasing. Every day there's new features and new capabilities that are introduced in products, and again, it seems that it's happening at an elevated pace. Everything from our TV that we watch to appliances to our cell phones and even the cars we drive, you're seeing advances in technology and capabilities with new features and new things.
And I'd add, too, that one of the common things among the results of these technologies is resource efficiency, whether it's time or using less water or less power. That is a general theme that you'll see also carried over to the Evolution controller.
I would say another theme that you would find in advances is that products are doing more within the same product. We use our phones as GPSs and to actually make a phone call. We use our TVs now to look at email. We're using same devices to do more and more to simplify and reduce the number of devices you use. Toro has a rich history of innovation. We have been in the turf care industry now for over 100 years, or at 100 years. In fact, next month we celebrate our 100th anniversary, and we have been in this industry for quite some time, and also in irrigation. Back to 1923 with the Sea Serpent, and even 1934 with our Jupiter large capacity sprinklers. Toro has continued to innovate and use the advances in technology throughout the years to bring new products to market, and that continues today. So in our recent project to develop a new irrigation controller, we were focused on looking at what was it that the users of the product were wanting. What is it that they need, and what were the things that they were looking for in the product? And we spent some time looking throughout the U.S. as well as worldwide at our markets and talking to the users of this product, which are both the contractor but also the homeowner, that the product ends up staying in their residence. And we were asking them, what is it about the controller that you want, like and dislike about the products that you use today? And from that feedback, we received some interesting information. Some of it not surprising, and some of it a little bit surprising. And that is that homeowners are looking for the easy to use. They want an interface that they can understand, something that is simple for them to walk up to, and with little to no instruction be able to take an action and actually get some feedback that the action they took was actually going to operate the way they expect. Contractors, they're also looking for easy to use from what we found, but they also need something that is more professional from the standpoint of the extra features and capabilities that they need to be able to leverage their experience and expertise with irrigation. So having a full-featured product with all the bells and whistles of capabilities was something that they're looking for, but in an easy-to-use package. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and talk about electronic technology, because that's something that's been advancing along with everything else. The reason we can have all these advances in technologies across these different products is because electronics are changing. They're becoming smaller, lower cost, being able to do more for the same price or even lower costs. Things like graphical displays has been a big change in terms of giving flexibility in products to display information. For a long time now, irrigation controllers have utilized what's considered a fixed segment display, and that's indicated by this black and white display you see up in the upper right corner. That display has a set number of characters or icons or words that can be turned on depending on what the condition is. The change has been that now graphical displays, which can change at any moment based on how the product is programmed, you're no longer limited to having just those items display. You can display anything you want at any time. And that's given a huge amount of flexibility in the type of information we can show in a screen. Also, increases in memory space and processing power of the microchips that go into these products has made the ability to put more in to the product so that it can handle and do more features. Smaller and lower cost components, as well as use of portable memory devices like USBs and SD cards, and improvements in wireless connectivity, which is radios, are allowing us to make advances in the products that we're using today.
So think of the power of this technology being leveraged to help reinforce what is oftentimes very, very essential to the success of a residential, high-end residential contractor who is dealing with consumers directly. Relationship building, referrals, that's what keeps many contractors that are in the business today having helped them successfully make it through the last difficult economic years. And so this controller with these advanced technologies actually reinforces the ability to stay connected to the customer in the sense that it allows the contractor to offer future upgrades, future capabilities that will reinforce those relationships that lead to referrals. So there really is a marketing tool here in addition to the fact that there's some great engineering that's gone on with this product.
And really the advances in electronic technology are really enforcing the capability of doing more at a lower cost. And so we're able to pull in some of the technology and features that may have been in the much higher end controllers that have been around and have been available, but now we're able to bring those into the lower cost segment of controllers. So with the advances in technology as well as the feedback we got from our research, we put together the project for the Evolution controller. And where we focused on was improving or changing the interface to make this a more modern device, to make it more like the things that people are used to using today, their cell phones, their satellite TV menu systems, their new washer and dryer that they got, the microwave, the GPS that they use in their car. Most of these devices utilize a menu system to be able to navigate to where you want to be and to tell the device what you want it to do. So to do that, we moved away from the traditional dial approach of selecting what you want to do with the controller, and we've changed it into a menu-based system with buttons. And what's also allowed us to do that is this graphical display that I was talking about. That allows us to show different information on the screen depending on where we are in the menu. But we also realize that this controller is going to need to be able to expand its capabilities. So we do that in a number of different ways. We do that with zone count, so it's a modular controller. That technology has been around for quite a while, and we're continuing with that technology. But we also have included the ability to expand on the control aspects of the controller. You can now have different options in terms of automatic control of how much water is dispersed. As well as I mentioned before, one of the themes of technology advances is having one device do more things than it did before. Now the irrigation controller, we're giving the capability of controlling other devices in the landscape, such as landscape lighting or water features like water fountains or even Christmas lights could now be controlled through the actual controller. And in addition to that, we are also expanding and giving capabilities of connectivity. Being able to now have the controller connect into a computer or even beyond that, whereas before controllers were single devices on the wall and there was no interaction with that other than what you did with the device on the wall. Now there's an opportunity to expand beyond that and have connectivity.
I recently attended a presentation on the Evolution controller, and I thought to myself, the original dial controllers, and some of you have been in the industry for a while will remember the HR control, the first dial-based controller, and of course the ESP and many other models. But that design was a direct response to the rejection, really, by consumers of the industry's first attempt to deliver a solid-state keypad-based controller. And all the benefits of that those electronics did not overcome the fact that end users were found those keypads problematic, not very easy to understand. And I was taken by the fact that when looking at the new display and the new front panel, that there was a particular young man who was the son of an owner of a Northern California contracting company, was just excited to see finally something that was modern, something different, and could see so many benefits of that separation of what's important to the homeowner or end customer, making it very easy for them to access the particular functions that they needed to do, which was basically turn off the water or make it water now manually or make a quick adjustment, versus what the contractor had access to with the advanced features. So it really is a controller that's done, I think, a great job, and BJ's done a great job of creating this controller that serves two purposes, or two masters, as I've heard him say.
Well, we're going to touch on that in a second here. But moving forward, talking more about the intuitive interface, again, we're utilizing a menu-type system where you will be able to navigate down to a particular area that you're wanting to work with. But the other thing that the graphics display allows us to do is to display information now using words and phrases and questions, things that will be more intuitive for someone working with the controller to understand, versus the very cryptic icons that we try to develop to fit into that small screen to indicate that the rain sensor is shut off, or that there's a rain bypass going on, or that the what the season adjustment is. Well, now we can display that using words and phrases. We can now also customize these words. So if you just notice that screen on the bottom, I just changed that from, I'm going to go back, where I'm showing zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and 4, and that it's a schedule. We can customize that now, and we can actually give names for zones so that people can be able to intuitively understand by looking at the title here what area that we're talking about in the yard, versus having to remember what is zone 1. And we can also add in other information now, like customized screens for the contractor to put in their own information. This is an example of a menu under the help button on the controller, where if it is set up correctly, the information is put here by the contractor for their contact information or any message that they would like to display. And as Mike touched on just a second ago, having this capability now has also allowed us to handle the question or the issue that was raised when we did our VOC, our Voice of Customer research. And if you remember, I mentioned that homeowners wanted something simple and basic to use, where contractors wanted something that was more advanced for them. So our problem we were faced with was, how do we supply both of these users what they want in the same product? Well, what we came up with was a way to basically split the interface into two, and to give them both what they want in the same product. And we did that by creating shortcut buttons, which are these blue buttons on the side here, and those are really intended for the homeowner. These are the basic operations that we feel that they're going to be using the most. In fact, they could operate a standard basic schedule and never have to even go into advanced if that's all that they're doing. While on the other hand, conversely, for the advanced area, we made for the contractor. This is where you'll find all of the other items, all the advanced capabilities of the controller, and in a way that we've formatted for their use. And really what we've done is to try to develop this kind of concept. And we found this picture, and it really shows the concept that we've tried to do. You have a remote here, you have two remotes here that have all kinds of buttons that are underneath that paper, right? And those are all the advanced capabilities of the remote and the TV or whatever it's controlling. Well, for the standard user, they don't need all that stuff, and it's very complicated, and it makes it look complicated and confused when they're looking at it. So putting this piece of paper on, only showing them the basic things that they want to do, such as volume control or power or change the channel, that's what the paper does. And that's what our shortcut buttons are like. To get to the advanced stuff, it's like hitting that advanced button is kind of like peeling off that piece of paper of the remote and having access to the full capability of the controller. So this is how I demonstrated for someone who I'm trying to show for the first time what we've done. Out of the box, if you pull Evolution out and plug it in and start using it, if you hit the schedule button through the shortcut keys, what you'll find is a simple basic schedule. You have water days, start times, and run times. That's it. None of the extra stuff like master valves information or programs B and C or delays and cycle and soak and grow-in schedules and diagnostic tests and all the other capabilities that the controller has, you won't see here. We've put it underneath that piece of paper. We've hidden it. And we've tried to make it so that it's more intuitive for the user to understand what they want for a basic schedule. And the other thing that I show is I show the difference in the runtime screens. And we show runtimes both in the basic or homeowner area, as if you were to, on that upper screen on the right, to navigate down and go into that runtime screen, this basic screen would then be displayed, which shows you the zones and shows you the runtimes. Very simple, very straightforward. It's for that particular schedule. Well, if you were to go into the advanced menu, what you're going to see is something a little different. This is the screen that we show in advanced. We are now showing you all schedules together, A, B, and C, in one screen. And we're showing you all the runtimes. So this is accomplishing a couple different things based on knowing, or based on the idea that someone in advanced is going to know a little bit about irrigation. They can see all the runtimes, and they don't have to bounce back and forth between looking at schedule A and then B and then C and having to switch back and forth to try to remember what was where. Everything's together in the same screen. So one, we're putting more information in, but also this is easier for you to put to actually enter information. So you can enter the information as you navigate to the right, and it's very quick to add it in for each of the different schedules.
Oh, if you go back for a second, yeah. That arrow on the bottom left corner of the zone runtimes indicates that there's more data below, so you're going to press that, one of the green down arrows, and then you'll be getting whatever other zones are available. Because remember, this is modular from 4 stations to 8 to 12 to 16, and this allows you to scroll to get that information quickly and easily.
That's actually another aspect of trying to keep the clutter away from the basic user. If you notice on the left-hand side for the basic screen, it only shows the 4 zones. That's an indication that you have a 4-zone controller. We're not going to show you any more zones if you're not using them. Whereas on the advanced screen, we show you all 16 so that you have the capability of entering in times, for instance, if you haven't put the module in yet or something like that. All right, so in terms of being able to expand the ability to control more, we've given Evolution the capability of adding on optional devices for sensing or remotes and or giving customized control to the controller. So we now have the ability of adding on a weather sensor, which is an ET-based approach of automatically adjusting the amount of watering, or you have the choice of adding on soil sensors. And not just one soil sensor, but with Evolution you have the ability of adding up to 3 on the controller. And you can assign these by the schedule. So you could have soil sensor 1 on schedule A, 2 on schedule B, and 3 on schedule C if you'd like. We do also give the ability of using a remote for a maintenance remote to be able to walk the property and test out the system or turn on zones or schedules manually to help save time. And then finally we give the ability of adding on what we call auxiliary relays. And these are devices that allow you to control other things. Basically, if you have something that runs off of 110 voltage up to 15 amps, you can plug it into this auxiliary relay and then plug it into the outlet that you were going to use. And now you have, through using the Evolution controller, the ability to control when that can turn on and off throughout the week. And now you can control things like landscape lighting or fountain, water fountain pumps, or even Christmas lights if you wanted to utilize it for that.
One thing on that remote, because I've been on job sites where I've been with contractors, and obviously the contractor likes to use a remote to speed up the installation process, checking out the valves. But when they do the walkthrough and the end customer sees the contractor using that remote, oftentimes that leads to a request for purchasing that remote. And of course, that remote can be used by the contractor on every single installation that uses one of the sensors, because, or even without the sensor, using what you're going to hear in just a little bit, what we call the Smart Connect, that wireless remote up to 1,000-foot line of sight communication length will work and speed up the productivity of the contractor. But contractor can use that for 5 other, 10 other, 20 other controllers with just the use of a 4-digit unique code at the controller.
And the other aspect about this is that all these devices, and you can connect up to 7 of these different devices, will connect to the Evolution controller through a single integrated receiver. Excuse me. So you won't have to have multiple receivers hanging on the outside of the device or outside of the controller. Really what you have is you have a single receiver that plugs into the back of the TM, and you interface with it through the front screen of the controller. So it's integrated into the menu system of the Evolution. You don't have a different menu or a different device that you have to program and set up outside of the controller. It's all together as one. And with it being wireless, there's no wires, there's no digging for any of these devices. Even the soil sensor is pressed down from the top of the soil into the soil, and there's no digging related to that and no running wires back to the controller. And then one last area that I'd like to talk about, actually second to last area, is that now with connectivity, we are able to harness the power of a PC and its interface and accessibility to the internet to now gain information and to work with the irrigation controllers. Evolution, for Evolution, we have developed a new software package called the Scheduling Advisor, and it is a free download from toro.com/evolution, and I'll have that website displayed later so you don't have to memorize it. But with this software, you can create ET-appropriate schedules based on your local history. By simply putting in your zip code, the software will go online and to our databases and pull down the historical information about the maximum ET requirement for that location historically over the past 10 years, and use that in working with the IA algorithms to create a schedule. In addition, it will also pull down the monthly ET history as well and be able to set up a monthly adjustment schedule if you're not using a sensor, but you can create a historically accurate yearly schedule utilizing the software. The software is also where we will utilize, or where a user can put in their custom information, such as the zone names and or the contractor message that I was showing earlier in a previous screen. So this is where you can say, instead of calling it zone 1, I want to call it front yard, or I want to put in my contractor information and phone number to be able to display in the controller. And then from there, the information is then transferred down into the controller using a USB stick, which I'm going to talk about in a second.
I just want to reconfirm, and BJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically without investing in the Smart Connect or one of the sensors, I have the ability to go online, download this software, the Scheduling Advisor, enter in my zip code, and get historical ET based on 10 years of data for every month of the year.
That is correct.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, we will be the first manufacturer to offer that kind of access to valid ET data, which would help in programming, obviously, the Evolution, but it's someplace where you can access ET information. Of course, it works better. That ET information works better in an Evolution, of course. So, I'm saying that with a grin on my face.
Okay, so the way that we get that information from the software program that's on the PC to the controller is by using a portable memory device that most people are very familiar with, or probably everybody has somewhere around their home, which is a USB port or USB stick. The software will download the schedule onto the USB stick, and walking that out and plugging it into the controller and going through a very simple, probably 3-step process to load it into the controller is all that's required to take that schedule you created on the software and actually put it into the controller. Now you can go the other way with that. You can create your program on the controller and take a record of that and then transfer it to the software and manipulate it there, or just keep it as a record on the USB stick. With the portability of the USB stick, we can do a lot of different things. We can actually transfer that from controller to controller. One great use for this is if someone's dealing with an HOA or a builder who is putting in multiple properties that are going to have multiple controllers that are all going to be using the basic same schedule or a template schedule. And so that schedule could be created on the computer or on the controller itself, and then taken from controller to controller and loaded. In fact, I had one contractor tell me that he was able to complete this over 30 controllers in less than 30 minutes. So that's a huge time savings for someone who's in that kind of a situation.
I think it's also important to recognize that you can assign the programming steps, the programming function, to someone who is knowledgeable about irrigation scheduling, and then make it a very straightforward process for whoever is installing the controller in the field. But the bottom line is it increases the company's productivity.
And the other thing, too, is that now a contractor can keep all of their different sites on one USB stick and have that with them at all times. These schedules can be emailed to customers. So let's say they're in a dire emergency and they need an adjustment made. You can make the adjustment using the software and email it to them and give them some simple instructions on putting it onto their USB drive and loading it into the controller. So there's all kinds of different flexibility and capabilities with using the USB drive. But I would say probably one of the most exciting aspects about the USB is our ability to use it to evolve the controller. This is one of the main themes about the Evolution controller, is that it will continue to change. We will continue to evolve the controller with the industry as new requirements come out, as new legislation requires different types of scheduling, as new sensors and or capabilities become apparent or developed. We realized that we needed to be able to give the customer and or the contractor the ability to update the controller, and that the controller that's sold is now updatable. You're not stuck with what you have on the wall. You can keep it fresh and keep it current by using the USB stick. And that's simply a process of downloading a file from, again, the Toro.com/evolution website, loading it onto your USB drive, and then going out to the controller and walking through a process to update the controller itself. So now we have the ability to keep the device current. And with that, I would like to thank the Irrigation Association for the ability of talking today, and also for recognizing the Evolution controller back at the last irrigation show as the new product contest winner. It's been a great experience in working with the Irrigation Association, and we really appreciate their support and trying to educate the community, as well as providing opportunities to be able to show and display our products.
And I would just add that given the water situation in many parts of the country, particularly the drier Southwest, this product is already listed in the EPA WaterSense website as meeting the criteria to receive that labeling with the ET sensor. So it's already gone through that process, and it can be used for those water agency service areas that are offering rebates on moisture sensors, which are quite a few. And here at the end, you'll be getting both my email and BJ's email. We've been able to compose, unfortunately just for California at this point in time, a alphabetized list of cities and their water agencies that service the cities and what rebates are available. And they've added, especially in Southern California, moisture sensing systems to those rebates. And of course, this product would fall within that category when used with the wireless moisture sensor. So just for those of you that are in that part of the country.
And then finally, here's some contact information if you are interested in finding out more information. That's Mike's email and mine, as well as the www.toro.com, as well as our dedicated site for the Evolution controller, which is the Toro.com/evolution. And with that, Chad, I think we could probably open up to questions if we have any.
Excellent. Mike and BJ, thank you very much for a really great presentation. We appreciate it. And at this time, we are open for questions from our attendees. If there's a technical question you have related to today's presentation, or if you want a particular slide that was in the presentation today, if we want to go back to it and have it expanded upon, we can certainly do that. This is your opportunity. There are two ways to ask your questions. One is to click the hand raise button, and I can open up your microphone and you can ask the question directly. The other way is to use the chat feature to type in your question, and I will read it to our presenters and give them the chance to answer. So we've had a couple of hands raised earlier today, and I'm going to go ahead and give those folks a chance to ask a question if they would like to. The first person who had a question today was Louis Cantu. So Louis, I'm going to go ahead and open up your microphone. Okay. Louis, question for our presenters today.
Can you guys hear me?
Sure
Yeah, we
can.
can hear you just fine.
Good. One quick question. On the Evolution controller, you mentioned you could go from the USB drive and take that programming and then go to the computer and be able to program it back and forth. Either one, you should be okay, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Now, and the software, would that be available? Does the controller give you an alert when there's a new update as far as the software goes, or is that like automatically done through the computer once you connect the USB to it?
No, there is no direct connectivity between the controller and the software, so there is no way for it to know that there's been changes on either end.
Okay.
Basically, you would be controlling that yourself through knowing that you're taking the USB back and forth.
Okay. Sounds good.
So just to make sure everyone understands, once you make changes on your laptop or your PC and you download those to the USB stick, you physically take that stick over to the Evolution and do that three-step process to upload that information. But it's going to ask for confirmation to make sure that you really want to do this.
There is an indication on the software of the last time it was downloaded to the USB drive. So you can have there is a timestamp of the last time that it was downloaded, at least onto the USB drive.
Good. Thanks, gentlemen. And Louis, thank you for your question. Next question, I have a hand raised from Michael Mosca. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Michael. You're on with Mike and BJ. Michael Mosca, are you there? Okay. Hearing nothing, I will move on to our next question. All right, question comes from Johan Nim. Hi, Mike and BJ. I guess he's just saying hi. Next question, Greg Gritters. What is the status of an internet connection via Wi-Fi to this controller, and what commands can be sent and data retrieved?
Okay, as we are today, right now, the connectivity we have to the internet is through the software package itself. We are definitely, as I mentioned before, we are not done with the Evolution controller. We will continue to evolve and add capabilities to it. And that is definitely one of the areas that we are going to be looking at and focusing on in terms of establishing real-time connectivity.
Hey, Greg, it's Mike Barron. How are you doing? Appreciate you being online and listening to the presentation. You know, there's an awareness within Toro of this whole movement of the Internet of Things and connectivity and information gathering, and you know, we've got to continue down the path of collecting, you know, vital information to manage water, and I think you're one of the leaders in that effort, and I know you have used some of our technology in different installations, but we don't have it today, but it's certainly on the horizon.
Okay, thanks very much. Next question, I have a hand raised from Tom Campbell. Tom, I'm going to go ahead and open up your microphone, and you can ask the question directly.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Do you have any flow monitoring capabilities as of yet, or do you plan on that?
This is the same kind of response here. This is definitely something that we are looking at. You know, as we continue to look into the commercial level versions of the controller, we will definitely be looking at, obviously that's a must-have for that level of controller. And at some point we may look at retrofitting back down to this level as well. But definitely on our radar.
Yeah, there's certainly advocates
okay.
for taking that flow sensing down to the residential level, because at least in California, we know 50% or more of the water that goes through the water meter on a residential site is going outdoors, and you know, I think long term we've got to be able to determine how much of that water is exactly going out to the landscape, and then use technology to manage that down without compromising the health or appearance of the landscape.
Yeah, especially when you're on a tier rate schedule like we are out here in California. It's always nice for the homeowner as well as the contractor to know when they're getting close to the highest tier rate. One of my things that I like to do is I monitor submeters for my clients, but to have it, you know, sent to me via email that, hey, this site is getting close to tier 4. You need to tell these people, you know, are we going to ratchet back, or are you going to bite the bullet and pay for this?
Yeah. And do you see the future as these budget-based tiered rates continue to be implemented by more water agencies, possibly the need to enter those tiered rate limits into the controller and have it manage, you know, to that tiered rate? That's certainly something we'll be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because those tiered rates, the top rate could be 5-6 times higher price than the base rate.
Yes, it can get really bad. Where I am, when you go from a tier 3, as soon as you hit tier 4, your bill goes up $600.
Yeah. I had a neighbor tell me that exact story. He came to me and said, I have a $1,200 water bill. I need to do something.
And you can't do anything unless you know how much you've used. And, of course, that water bill comes in the mail way too late to make any changes.
Yes.
Thanks, Tom. Those are very good feedback and insight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks for the question, Tom. We appreciate it. All right. Next question comes from Steve Lukasik, and he's got several questions here, so I'll do them one at a time. Can you please, well, I'll do the first two. Can you please expand on the soil moisture and ET sensors? Are they new or existing products?
Okay, the answer to that is they are new, or well, let's see, they are existing products. We have we currently have had in the field for the past 2 to 3 years the Universal Soil Sensing Kit, and this is a device that will basically work with anybody's controller based on a break the common type approach. So it's the same sensor that's used in that, but now that we're able to integrate it into the controller, we're able to expand on that and now have up to 3 in the controller versus say 1 that would control the whole device. So, and then on the ET sensor, this technology we've been using for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years with the Irritrol Climate Logic device, and so it's the same sensor. We've changed some of the firmware and how it operates for the Toro version, but we've been getting a lot of good field use and feedback on both of those devices, and being able to control and monitor water and cut down on water usage.
Another distinction is that the weather sensor, or ET sensor, is going to take real-time weather information, compare it to historical peak demand in July or June, whatever it happens to be, and then adjust watering times on a daily basis. Whereas the moisture sensor you're going to program it to set a threshold so that when the moisture content in the soil exceeds a threshold level, irrigation will be inhibited until that moisture level drops to the threshold. And then it will continue to allow irrigation per the program scheduling until we reach somewhere between 90 and 100% of what we'll call field capacity. So you're going to have a variable schedule with the soil moisture sensor based on moisture content, whereas you're going to have a very set program with reduced or increased run times with the ET sensor. So those are the two technologies. The interesting thing is a recent study that we had conducted by a 2-year study by New Mexico State University showed that the ET tracking of both technologies were essentially equal. The only difference was, depending on the rainfall, you relied on a set program to delay the restart of the irrigation cycle after a rain event, whereas the moisture sensor, of course, is telling you how wet the soil is, and then inhibits irrigation until that threshold level is set. So bottom line, if you live in an area that has a lot of rain, then the moisture sensor is something to consider. But out here in California, really, it's the one that's going to be the best for the application from an installation standpoint and from the end user standpoint.
Great, and 3 more questions, gentlemen, then on that same subject. Battery powered, are these devices battery powered? Are they compatible with any other controllers, and a rough idea of price?
They are battery powered. The weather sensor uses a 9-volt battery, and the soil sensors are using 3 AA batteries. They are, at this point, only compatible with the Evolution controller. And last question was on price. The list price for both of these devices is $99.
And just to be clear, if you are looking for moisture sensor functionality on an existing controller that is 120 volt AC powered with 24 volt AC output to the valves, the universal precision soil sensor kit can be used with those controllers, so you wouldn't have to change the controller if you're looking for a cost-effective way to integrate moisture sensing. But it's not the same sensor as what is used with the Evolution, so there are 2 separate sensors. And that universal sensor, which has a wireless receiver that connects to or is installed adjacent to the controller, runs at $195 list.
Okay, very good.
Oh, hey, one thing I forgot to mention, I think is important. All the technologies, whether they're the universal or the Evolution, there will be an indicator on the battery level. When it starts to get low, that will be something that's communicated via the display, either on the controller or on the receiver itself.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Chris Keating from Toro asks, can BJ discuss the grow-in schedule capability?
Of course. All right, so within the Evolution controller, we, as the standard out-of-the-box product, we have really packed this controller with many advanced features. You know, we have a zone diagnostic test where you can actually measure the current of the solenoids, and it will go through each zone and measure that for you and show that to you on the screen. But Chris is referring to a feature that is called Grow-In, and that is the ability to have a temporary schedule used for you know, new establishing lawns or new landscape that you're trying to establish.
Or overseeding. In some areas of the marketplace, you know, they scalp the turf and then they overseed, and you want to kind of run multiple cycles every day for, say, a month.
Yep. So the grow-in schedule is again a temporary schedule. You have one for each of the schedules. So you have a schedule A, B, and C. Each one of those has its own ability to run a grow-in schedule. And the way this works is that you set a start time for the day and an end time, and then you establish a run time that you would like each of the zones to run for, and then a delay time. So it actually operates kind of like a cycle and delay looping program from the start and end time that you've put into the controller. So the way that would work is, let's say you want to start at 6 o'clock in the morning and end at 6 p.m., and you want to run 5 minutes on each of the zones, and then wait 2 hours in between, and then do that again and keep cycling that way throughout the day. So it will operate that way, and you can identify how many days you want this to operate from anywhere from 1 to 90 days. So you can have that temporary schedule running, say, for 30 days, and then at the end of those 30 days, it will automatically revert back to the standard schedule without having to be on site. The controller will just automatically start to go back and operate on the standard schedule you have programmed.
And that becomes particularly helpful, I think, when you're doing a new installation, putting in a new landscape, a new irrigation system. Rather than having to go back to reprogram the clock, you can use this grow-in capability and then have it revert to a standard program or a program based on the ET information that was downloaded by month, or even have the sensor-based control activate after that grow-in period has transpired. So it really does, again, add to the productivity of that for the contractor.
Great, thanks. Before we proceed with the additional questions, I just want to acknowledge we have questions from a number of folks who are on the webinar right now, and those individuals include Michael Schroff, Jeff Middlebrook, Jeff Mathers, Raymond Yurto, another one from Johan Nim, Jim Barrett, again, Jeff Middlebrook, another one from David Searcy. So what I want to do is just make sure it's okay with you guys, Mike and BJ, if we continue the webinar for a few more minutes. We're not going to be able to fit this all in before 3 o'clock. You willing to hang with us a little bit longer?
Of course.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And for those who have asked questions, we will get to your questions. And so please hang with us just a little bit longer, and we'll get to your question. So the next question comes from Michael Schroff, and he asks, what is the most important benefit of using the Evolution controller?
You know, that's a very good question. And you know, I have a slide that I didn't show, but that I've created, that it really depends on your needs. The Evolution is a fully featured standard controller out of the box. So if you want something that's going to be cost effective, I mean, the list price for the Evolution controller is $150. So very competitive in its place in the market with all these capabilities. There is the Smart Connect stuff that if you're looking to be able to have smart capabilities and sensing capabilities, then you know that may be the thing that you're looking for. But if you want that standard controller, it's very easy to install, very easy to operate. It's very easy to explain and work with a homeowner. If that is what you're after, installation-wise, the indoor unit comes with a pre-pigtailed transformer that's internal to the controller. So you take it out of the box, you can mount it onto the wall and screw direct through the cabinet onto the wall, and then plug it in, put your zone wires in, and you're off and running. So we've tried to make it very easy to install and operate. And if that's what you're after, then Evolution is great for that. Again, if you're after the smart technology, then it's very good for that. If you're after trying to grow and expand your business, this is something we really haven't talked a lot about. Mike kind of touched on it. But Evolution gives you that opportunity to come in with a standard offering, but then give you opportunities and reasons to go back and talk to your customer about upgrades, whether that's sensing technology to save water, whether that's Christmas lights with the auxiliary relays, or a fountain that they want to put in, or a remote control that they may want to have for themselves. And we also, with the software, you have a tool now that you can do servicing with your customers. You can create schedules for them and send them to them, or or take them to them yourself. You can database your customers. So I guess the best way to answer that is it depends on what you're looking for. There are many strengths with Evolution, and depending on what your needs and desires are, you can exploit those strengths to your benefit.
So I think I would say, summing up what BJ offered, was that for the contractor, it's a controller for today, for tomorrow, for the future, that increases the contractor's productivity while delivering multiple opportunities to communicate and touch the source of future business for a contractor that depends on referrals. I mean, this is a way to say, hey, if you're interested in this, if you're interested in moisture sensing, if you're interested in automating your water, your decorative fountain, if you're interested in remote control, it's just a controller that's excellent for today, price competitive, but it has the capabilities to deliver more business in the future and increases today's productivity, which adds to the bottom line for the contractor. So that's what I would say.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for your question, Michael. Jeff Middlebrook asks, will you please explain the wireless ability of the controller a bit more? If so, is there a fee involved for the service?
Let me take that one away, because I was very involved with the Toro IntelliSense, which was a fee-based system that relied on one-way paging for delivery of ET information. And so the Evolution, with its wireless connectivity to either the moisture sensor that's in the ground or its connectivity to a weather sensor that's installed on the eave of the roof or the fence line or the gutter, there is absolutely no fees associated with the use of this controller. So, and the wirelessness has to do with communicating that weather information back to the controller, or the soil moisture content from the sensor in the landscape back to the controller.
And there is no fee for the software. It's again a free downloadable software, and it connects to the internet, but that's through whatever service the user would already have existing.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, guys, and thanks for the question, Jeff. Jeff Mathers, you're up next. Jeff asks, have there been any complaints on installing 12 station modules to the controller? I had a customer note the loose fit and difficulty lining up the pins, as well as noting that due to the lack of a snap-in style fit, the station wires can cause the module to pull away from the back plate, causing connectivity issues between the module and the controller. Is there a coming solution, or has this been noted elsewhere? Thanks, guys.
Well, with the last comment of the question, I can tell that the module was not installed correctly. There's a sticker that we place underneath where the modules go that indicate that the modules need to hook in. There's two little feet on the module, and that has to hook in first, and then the top of the module lays in, and I would say kind of snaps into place. So there is somewhat of a snap feature to it. But if the bottom of the module is being pulled away with the wires, then those feet are not in place, and definitely would not be, I would be very concerned about the operation of that at that point. So there is a small learning curve on learning how the modules are put in, and the key is to set the feet in first and then lean the module in, and using your index finger, press on the tab, and it basically snaps into place.
And I would say if you don't have a direct connect with a Toro rep out in the field, just send either me or BJ your email address and where you are in the U.S., and we'll circle around and see make sure that you get the information you need.
Okay. Thanks, guys, and Jeff, thanks for your question. Oh, anything else, gentlemen?
I was just going to say thanks for bringing that up. It's important to have open communication because we can't respond or fix things if we don't hear back from the contractor. So the sooner we hear, the sooner we can assess and respond. So just want to say thanks for that question.
All right, very good. And Carlos Zaraga, I note that you've got your hand raised. We'll get to you in just a minute. I want to cover some of these folks who have been waiting, and then we'll get to your questions. So stay with us. Next question comes from Raymond Yurto. Does downloading ET data via USB port alter the scheduled run times, or is that to be done manually?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, does downloading the ET data via the USB port, does that alter the scheduled run times, or is that to be done manually?
Or does that just create the percentages?
The ET data is pulled off of the internet and put into the scheduling advisor, which is used with the IA formulas for calculating runtime, and that establishes the runtime. So that does not have to be done manually. The wizard will do it for you within the software. And then from there, you would transfer the schedule onto the USB drive and down to the controller. Now, the other thing that the wizard does for you, based on you have the ability of entering in very simple graphical selections of your soil type and slope and shade and all of the other standard ET parameters to calculate what the runtime should be. But you also, out of that, get what the cycle and soak requirements are for that particular zone as well. And that gets transferred down with the schedule along with the runtimes.
So here's a follow-up question. Can I override those runtimes after they've been calculated by the scheduling advisor?
Yes, you can. Once the wizard completes, we're able to go back to each of the software is kind of broken up into zones and schedule and review, and on the zone screen you can go in and manually adjust anything that you feel is inappropriate or that you would like to change.
Okay, thanks gentlemen, and thanks for the question, Raymond. Next question comes from Johan Nim, and he asks, hi Mike and BJ, just talk me through the ET-based scheduling again. I presume that this function will only cater for the U.S. market at this time and maybe at a later stage for the international market?
Well, not true. We have our databases for ET information cover the North America and up into Canada to a certain extent, and I can't remember exactly the line that gets drawn in the sand at this moment, but if you have a request on that, you can send me an email. But we also cover ET database for Europe as well as Australia, and so that information can be pulled out. You're not using zip code when you're outside of the United States. You would then enter latitude and longitude of your location to be able to pull that ET data. But we also foresaw the situation where, let's say you had a new zip code, or let's say that you had an area outside of our database. The software still can be used by you manually putting in the maximum ET requirement for your area. So you can manually type in the number of inches or millimeters, depending on what system of units you're working with, of the maximum ET requirement, and the rest of the scheduling engine would end up generating your schedule for you based on that.
Okay. Thanks, gentlemen, and thanks for the question, Johan. Next question, Jim Barrett asks, will commercial level Evolution have more than 16 stations?
Definitely.
Do you need more than 48 stations, Jim? If you has an answer, that's okay. He can send me an answer separately.
Jim, I can open up his Jim's mic. Give me just a second here. There we go, Jim. You're live.
Yeah, so we're just looking at the standard. I think 12, 24, 36, 48 station on the commercial version.
Can you hear us?
The reason for the question was I'm aware of a job that is looking at this, and they have 17 stations.
Hard.
Well, you can. Well, actually, that brings up a point that is good to understand about the Evolution controller. Unlike other controllers at this level, the Evolution controller has the ability of running multiple schedules at one time. And to support that, we knew we had to have a little bit stronger transformer. And so we have the ability of running 1 amp of power out of the transformer. So if you have the hydraulic capacity, you can run up to 4 solenoids, standard solenoids, off of one zone. Or you can run multiple schedules at the same time. So you can run, if you wanted to cover your landscape and run a drip line at the same time, you can do that with Evolution. So that may or may not fix your immediate need for 17 zones, but there might be an opportunity there.
I think it will.
Creative.
Jim, go ahead.
I think that will solve the problem. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim, thanks for the question. Thanks, gentlemen. Next question comes from David Searcy. When you need more than 100% of scheduled runtime, will the Evolution split the runtime as some other Toro controllers?
The answer to that is yes. The way we do it might be a little different than some of the past experience you've had with Toro controllers. The way it's done is it will run, it'll do runtimes in chunks of the standard runtime. So let's say, for instance, you have a 10-minute runtime and you have a 150% adjustment. What it will do is it will go through the schedule and run 10 minutes for each of the zones, or it'll run the standard runtime for each of the zones. It will know that it still has more to run, so it will come back to the first zone and then run the remaining amount. Let's say it was over 10 minutes again. It would do 10 minutes, go through the rest of the zones, come back again, and it will basically keep looping through until the entire runtime is depleted.
And that brings up an interesting fact, and that is you do have the ability to look at the total runtime by program or by the entire clock, I think.
Yes.
And so when that if you come to the clock and it's at 150% adjust, you'll be able to see, well, how, when's this system going to be done watering? So that's another feature we didn't talk about with the Evolution.
Okay. Thanks, gentlemen. And thanks, David, for the question. Next question comes from Marcus Votruba. On the wireless unit, if there are multiple sensors and weather devices, can they be picked up by other controllers in the area by other customers?
The answer is yes and no. The sensors are connected. They're all working off of the same frequency and radio technology. But we are able to distinguish which sensor is what by a particular PIN code, if you will, or ID, we call it, of the device. And when you pair a device to the controller, part of the process is to verify that the controller is talking to the right sensor. So that's how we keep them separated if we want to. Now, let's say you're dealing with an HOA or you're dealing with a situation where you do want to use, say, one weather sensor to control multiple controllers that are within range. you have the ability to do that as well. And one sensor puts out the signal, and as long as you are coupling that sensor with a particular controller, it will read it. And so that way you can use one sensor for multiple controllers and save a little money that way.
Great. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for the question, Marcus. This is our final question. It comes from Carlos Zaraga. Carlos, I'm going to open up your microphone, and you're on live with Mike and BJ.
Hey, Carlos. ¿Cómo estás?
How are you doing, sir?
Good, good. What's your question, Carlos?
Carlos, go ahead. Okay, maybe we've lost Carlos. Okay, I think, gentlemen, that covers our questions for the day, and I really appreciate both of you guys taking the extra time out to answer these good questions that we had, and that wraps up our webinar for today. I want to thank everyone for participating, and again, I want to thank our presenters, Mike and BJ with the Toro Company, and finally, I want to let everybody know that we have recorded the webinar today, and it will be posted to our YouTube page. And what we're going to do is send a link out to all of you and to all of our sign-ups who weren't on the call today so that they can access this webinar and view it. And we were also privileged to have some credit for continuing education for those of you who have IA certifications. You have been approved for 0.5 unit of continuing education for being on the call today. And if you need more information about that, you can always contact the IA office or contact me at chad@irrigation.org. And thank you all for your participation. And with that, we're going to close it out for today. We'll see you next time.